I'm Robert White. I'm here with Ray Botch, candidate for City Council. We're at Bob White Insurance Agency, and we're doing this on behalf of the Jefferson County political activists. Ray, good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Jim. I'm glad to be here, Bob.
Well, very good. If you'd like, please introduce yourself and tell us why you're running for City Council, sir.
Well, I am Ray Botch. I am a former city manager. Was city manager from 1970 to 84. After that, I moved to Westmont, Illinois, where I was city manager for 19 years. When I retired, I could have lived anywhere in the country. I decided that I wanted to come back to Mount Vernon, which I had adopted as my hometown. And I am here to make Mount Vernon the King City again.
Okay, very good. We'll get to the questions here. Okay, the first question would be, we hear a lot about transparency. It seems communication is lacking when it comes to governing boards. What is your plan and commitment to ensure that any actions you propose is clearly communicated to the citizens of Mount Vernon?
Well, I'd like to see several things, Bob. One of the things is that all of the participants at council meetings would be open to the public, that they could debate each of the issues. That used to be the way it was. Now you give a speech before the council starts and you can't, and when the issue comes up you can't talk on it. Based on that, probably American Water would have passed if they would have used the same rules that they are using now, because there wouldn't have been the healthy debate that finally convinced the council that it was not the thing to do at the time. The second thing I would like to see done, we have a clause in our contract with, well, it used to be Sullivan Cable, but it's Continental Cable now, that allows for public access. And I would like to see that, see if we could possibly put our council meetings on public access. I know that it would involve training some people to do it, but there are citizens out there in Westmont that were doing it, and I think that it would be very beneficial and would keep the people of the community updated on what their government is doing.
Okay, very good. Okay, infrastructure. What are your priorities when it comes to the city's infrastructure? Well,
the infrastructure is of course a very important part, and in fact I call it, what I call it is the necessities of life. You have the necessities of life and you have the quality of life. We've been emphasizing the quality of life too much and have let the necessities go to waste. If you don't have water, sewer, you don't have a community. I have been very vocal about the infrastructure. In fact, I was the only one that testified before the city council that they shouldn't pass the bond issue, that they should take the money that they were going to set aside and do a pay-as-you-go and do the infrastructure, particularly in the water and the sewer areas. Also in the bond issue, I don't think enough was spent on the current roads and streets in the city of Mount Vernon.
Okay. All right, now we'll move along to quality of life. We hear a lot about that. What are your priorities when it comes to quality of life?
I think that a lot of the quality of life has been undertaken. You have the new Aqua Center, you have the bike paths, you have the sidewalk. I would continue the sidewalks. That's definitely a safety issue, and I consider that more of a necessity of life than a quality of life, getting the kids to the school safely.
Okay, very good. There's much discussion about the amount of debt that the city has accrued in the past 8 years. Whether you agree with what the money has been spent on, what is your plan to ensure that this money is paid back? And in addition to that, have you identified any other ways that this debt could be retired or paid back sooner?
Well, one of the things I'm looking at is a refunding of the two bond issues, the 2009 and the 2012 bond issues. Putting them together, do a refunding, reduce the interest rate. It wouldn't be any more money and the time period wouldn't be extended, but I think based on what I see in the bond market, we possibly could reduce the interest rate, substantially saving money to the city. As I mentioned earlier, I was never in favor of the bond issue. I was in favor of pay-as-you-go. We're paying $18 million on that bond issue that we had in 2012. That could have been much better spent by us rather than paying it in interest.
Okay. All right, so next question, a hot topic, the Armory. State of Illinois has offered to put $1.5 million into this facility if the city puts an additional $500,000 into this project. What is your stance on this facility?
I'm kind of nebulous on it. One of the things that I would stress is let's turn it over to private investors. Now, if that be the why, I would not object to the city spending their $500,000, getting the $1.5 million grant, and having the facility ready for the why, and then turned over to them for operation with no further city expense.
Okay. All right. The city makes financial commitments. We hear a lot about growth. Let's get to that. We hear a lot about growth, both in jobs and population. What is your plan for each and your priority in addressing it?
One of the things that we need to do, Bob, is that we need to look at what we can do and how we can do it. It's going to be difficult to get any major industry in here. One of the things that I would like to see is I'd like to see us stress a regional medical center, possibly even bringing the teaching hospital from Springfield to Mount Vernon, closer to Carbondale for the SIU Medical Center. Also, we need to look at the distribution aspect of what is available. We are a distribution center. Our roads, our transportation system dictate that. And let's take advantage of what we do best, and that's location.
Okay, very good. So moving on to financial commitments. The city makes financial commitments to various entities. What are your commitments to the Jefferson County Development Corporation, Downtown Development, and the Convention and Tourism Department? With that, do you also prefer a public-private structure or strictly governmental control structure?
I prefer a joint structure. In Westmont, for instance, the Chamber of Commerce took over community development, they took over tourism, and they also took over economic development. Here, it's a little bit structured a little bit differently. I would see the chamber possibly taking over the tourism aspect. I haven't looked into the Jefferson County Development Corporation, but from the reports I am getting, it's a very worthwhile organization, and we should support it if that's the way the industry in the area feels.
Okay, very good. We hear a lot about unfunded pension liabilities, especially in the state of Illinois. With that in mind, we know that our own fire and police pensions are currently underfunded. What is your plan to address this if duly elected?
Well, the first thing we have to do is you have to get Springfield. We can't do anything until Springfield comes on board and tells us how we can do it. We do have a substantial unfunded mandate. And this was passed years ago by the legislature. They kept kicking it down the road. Anytime police and fire would go in there for a increase, it was like apple pie and motherhood. They approved it, and they said, well, we'll pay for it later. The Illinois Municipal League, which represents the cities in the state of Illinois, and the Illinois Managers Association were always opposed to legislation increasing pensions. And the reason being is what we're seeing right now. It is an unfunded mandate. Now it's on the back of our people, and it's going to be very difficult to fund it.
So you're saying kicking the can down the road, we're at the end of the road with the can?
Now it's kicking back at us.
Certainly. Okay. Let's see. We have been hearing a lot about the closure of 7th Street for the rail transfer operation. Where do you stand on this and why?
My stance on the 7th Street project is that it should have never been closed, or it shouldn't have been closed until there was a substantial study done, input from the police, fire chief, sheriff's department, ambulance, hospitals, for emergency response. It is one of our only north-south streets in the community. And it'd be almost like trying to close Broadway. Because you don't have that many accesses north and south and east and west in our community. And that's one of the things that I've seen that the city council and has been trying to do, is to build some transportation access around the city so that it doesn't all funnel through the downtown area. But I think that 7th Street should be open right now. And if there is a plan that brings industry and really helps the community and provides alternate access, then I would listen to what the developers are talking about.
Okay. So please tell us what you see as the strengths and opportunities of this city, and what you would do to build on these.
Well, as I said, I've retired back down here. Mount Vernon offers a lot. The main thing are the people. We have the greatest bunch of people that you would ever want to deal with. I was fortunate to be a part of bringing in General Tire. Now, I wasn't one of the people that was out front. I was more behind the scenes, but there were 5 members of the team that was responsible for bringing in General Tire. And as I said, I was one of the back. I wasn't the Chet Lewis or the Cliff Fields or the Mayor Roland Lewis that were right out there and did the brunt of the work. I did the grunt work. So I know what it is to bring in an industry. It's very difficult. And in these times, it's going to be awfully difficult. I think that you look at, as I said, what are our strengths? It's the transportation. We look at things that go with transportation. We look at maybe the medical center aspect. Well, build on our strengths. The smokestack industry is very hard to come by now. And the other problem we have is the state legislature with the workman's comp. And also with the lawyers, with the laws that they are required that be done.
Like tort reform.
Tort reform. That was the word I was looking for.
Okay. So it sounds like that with the next question, you've kind of addressed the weaknesses and threats. You would suggest that it's the work comp rates, lack of tort reform, unfunded pension liabilities. Any other weaknesses or threats that you would identify?
No, the big thing is, as I said, is the workman's comp. And if you talk to the Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they'll tell you the same thing. Illinois is probably the lowest state as far as trying to attract industry or industry wanting to go to. You can go to Indiana, you can go to Missouri, you can go to Wisconsin, much easier.
Okay. All right, so we've addressed pretty much all the questions. The last remaining question, we've got 2 open seats, several candidates. If you're so duly elected, depending on who becomes mayor or city council, or irrespective of who you like or who you support, do you feel like you could get along with any of the
well, I can get
candidates?
along. My career has been getting along with city councils. 35 years as a city manager. I will bring a different perspective to the city council. I'll bring a city manager's mentality to the city council. And that's a problem solver, a leadership role, innovator, and knowing how to solve problems. And I think that would be beneficial. Also, I am very, very fluent and well educated in municipal finance. That was one of my strong suits. In fact, I have received from the Government Finance Officers Association their highest award, the Distinguished Budget Award, in 2001 and 2002 and 2003. So I do know municipal finance backwards and forwards.
Okay. Well, that's it for the questions. Mr. Botch, is there anything that you would like to say to the folks that will be watching this video as to why they should vote for you?
Well, I will probably be the one that can more quickly get things going because of my knowledge of, I've been in the trenches for 35 years. I know how a city government works. I know where to go and look for things. I know how to balance budgets. As I said, I've balanced a budget for 35 years. And there are tricks to the trade in budgeting. As you know, Bob, being on the chairman of the county board, there are ways that you do things and that you can get account for things and do things and make it a good budget. And that's what I tried to do.
Okay. Well, that concludes our interview, sir.
Bob, I appreciate it so much.